Hello, this is Darren Pulsipher, Chief Solution Architect of Public Sector at Intel, and welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we investigate effective change leveraging people, process, and technology. On today's episode, Everyday Generative AI with special guest Andy Morris, Enterprise AI Strategy Lead at Intel. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Darren. Nice to be here.
Hey, we've talked a couple times now. I love your insight into things. But today, instead of talking about all the great things that Intel is doing around AI, we're going to get to some brass tacks, hey, generative AI and AI in general is changing the way people do everything every day. You got some great insight on this. So let's dive in. But before we do that, I know my listeners want to know a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit about Andy Morris, who he is and why we're talking to him today.
Sure, great. Let me give you a quick intro. So I guess I'm someone who you would say is a technology geek who turned into a marketing geek. So I love taking great technology and bringing it to customers and making it work. And along the way, I learned how important it is to get the positioning right and really help the customers understand what the end value is of the solution. So more recently, my career I've been primarily focused on AI, machine learning, and the huge breakthroughs that these technologies can bring to enterprises and individuals, as we'll find out. So love working in AI, everything around marketing, and I love working with partners collaborating to make a real difference for customers.
So what got you interested in AI? It's a fairly, well, it's not new. It's been around a long time, but it's now starting to blossom. So what got you interested in heading down the AI track?
I think a couple of different things. Like a lot of people, especially people who work in technology, I've watched and read a lot of science fiction, right? As many of us have. So I was just fascinated by the future-oriented view of what things like computer vision and natural language processing could bring. And because of the acceleration in developing those technologies, some of these applications began to be rolled out very quickly. And so I decided this was the definitive wave of technology for all of our futures, and I wanted to be involved.
So I know this is a big question. So, and we'll wax exoteric a little bit here. Are we just trying to make sci-fi real? Is that where technology is? Is we see, oh, that's a really cool idea. Let's make that happen. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wondered that.
I don't think so. Because I think you have kind of two branches of sci-fi. One is, hey, this is a great world of our future, and the other is, hey, look what could happen, right? So there's a big history of Isaac Asimov of using sci-fi as kind of a fear-mongering twilight zone of what could happen. So we're kind of keeping that branch to the side and really looking at where the most impactful breakthroughs could be used around use cases that help humanity most. Healthcare, science, defense, actually, areas where we, could use breakthroughs to cut the time to, making a difference. And a lot of that also is in the hard sciences, of course, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I always wondered if science follows art or art follows science, I guess.
I would say yes.
Yes. Great. All right, so let's talk about, it's been almost a year since generative AI was launched with ChatGPT. It's been around, but
Yeah.
launched. It's been almost a year, and we're seeing a plethora of new tools that are available. Where do I start? If I look at my Facebook or Instagram reels there's hundreds of tools out there.
That's right.
But are they all doing the same thing? Where do I start? Help me out, Andy.
Well, there's some overlap. So I think the most likely place that people are going to be encountering generative AI is through the existing channels, and that's one of them is search, right? So, Bing, Google search supercharged with, OpenAI technology, Bard, et cetera. That's where I think, an easy place that people are going to start encountering. Now, it's not an exact match as well, right? Because, you're looking for a plumber, you don't always want to see a bunch of generative AI results. So it's going to really depend on the search intent. And then the other place is applications, and in particular, Chat GPT itself, right? So that has experienced explosive growth. I think at one time the fastest adoption of any application in history. Now that mountain has kind of started dropping off in growth. But that's certainly one place where people are going to start experiencing the benefits of generative AI, in particular with something like the Plus subscription uh, to ChatGPT, where they're rolling out DALI 3, which is generative AI image generation plugins, and it can now connect live to the internet instead of being, backward looking at 2-year old.
2-year-old data.
Search history, right? So that's a big one. And then there are a number of other applications, and I've tested and looked at some of them, and we can talk about some of those as well.
Yeah, let's dig into that and let's talk about these applications. And then you think, because we talked a little bit about this, you think that everyday people are going to be using these tools. This is not just content creators or students, right? A great example. My daughter called me last night. She's a freshman in college, and she's like, "Dad, how do I use ChatGPT without cheating? I don't want it to write my essay, but I want it to help me write a better essay." So I talked to her about that. So I know students are going to use it, content
Yeah,
creators are going to use it, but you think it will go beyond that?
I think so. And there's a big crossover audience there, right? Someone has work they do at home, a job. They may be able to use some generative AI technologies to help with their work, for writing blog posts, for adding images. Then they go home. Maybe they're selling things on eBay on the side. They're also taking vacation photos, and some came out terribly, or they want to, pitch in and make it look like, hey, I didn't go to Philadelphia, I went to Hawaii, right? So kind of fun type things. So looking at that, there's one tool I think I could talk about, and maybe make some people aware of, that they'd be able to start using right away.
All right, let's dive into some of these tools that you found, because this is where I think things get fascinating.
Okay, well, so everybody knows the Adobe family of products, and it's large, and people use Photoshop a lot. Granted, it's turned into a very professional oriented tool. And there are a lot of tools that people use to add, edit, and now even generate photographs from scratch, let's say from text prompts or from other photos. Now, Adobe's done a great job here. They have a new completely free tool called Adobe Firefly. And I've tested this out a bit. There's some really interesting things they can do. The first one that people have been using since generative AI apps have come out, like Midjourney and Dolly, is text to image, right? So you type in a text, astronaut riding a horse on the moon. Fantastic. Here's 5 different ones. This is what I use for my news report or book cover. You have some different choices. People love it. It's fun. You can spend all day at it. I've spent half a day at it, and then had to, go find something to eat. But that's what, one of the tricks in the bag of tools in Adobe Firefly. The other one is generative fill. So people may or may not know about this. Hey, this is a great picture of me. I'm wearing my ugly yellow sweater. I want to turn it into my pink designer jacket, right? So you can do that's a generative fill. You have other things that are kind of the flip side of that, which is outfill, right? Here's a picture of me with a tree in the background, but it's zoomed in. I want to see the whole background, and it'll go, add a forest for you, right? So just really amazing technology that going on behind the scenes, and there's no cost at all to use it. Because
Adobe
yeah,
Firefly is generating new images.
that's right. It's generating new images and also generating or replacing portions of existing
Oh,
images.
so it can also do the generative fill as well. So
That's exactly
all,
right.
all of these things you talked about all fit into Firefly. A
That's
generative
exactly
fill,
right.
outfill, and creating new things. Pretty incredible. How are we going to know what's real and what's not?
I think that's a trick. And the current tools are good enough that they are fooling experts. And the same also applies, and it's even more complex in some cases with generative videos, right? And the so Intel, we have a tool, and I forgot the name of it, actually has a fairly
Fake
good
detector.
ability to figure that out and at least assign a confidence ratio that this is original versus generative or modified content, right? So
Got
that's
it.
going to become very popular, particular in things like politics. So you see that already of videos coming up of a politician, and it may just be slightly modified, right, in a way that's very uh, it,
Damning.
that's exactly
Yeah.
right. And you don't need to modify a video very much to tip the impression of what's going on, right?
So what that tells me is when we see an image, we can't really necessarily believe them anymore
I think we
directly.
need to. I think we need to be more skeptical than ever, particularly because psychologists have found that as soon as you get that first impression, it's much harder to go back and change it and say, "Oh, by the way, this was fake," because you've already internalized your opinion based on the first contact with that, image or incorrect statement, right? So it's really important for people to look at anything that may seem, polemical or out of the ordinary with a skeptical eye, no matter what side of politics they're on, right? Because it's very easy to kind of wall yourself off. But I think anything now you need to say, what's the provenance, right, of this? And so
Of
I
it.
think you're going to see some more things like, watermarking or maybe even using NFT technology, right, to be able to tie it back to the certified original copy of that piece of media.
Oh, that's interesting. So NFTs may come back because
Well,
they were hot
yeah,
and then they
NFT
kind of crumbled.
or
That was
or or
interesting.
well, or it's on the blockchain somehow, right?
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
this is the certified copy of video is recorded by Reuters at this presidential or congressional speech, and that's it, and then it has a watermark or
It
the
hasn't
breaks
been
sort of a
modified.
blockchain. So I think that's a use of that
Ooh.
technology.
All right. So another quick thing with Adobe Firefly, how do you see just normal people using it, like everyday use type of things? Where do
Yeah.
you see that?
Well, the one I mentioned was generative fill, right? So, people love taking pictures. Everybody has almost everybody at least has a camera slash cell phone in their pocket or purse. It take pictures. Very few take perfect pictures. So you want to dress them up, beyond just, very simple effects you might be able to do on your phone with adjusting the filter or the, let's say the brightness or contrast. It takes it to the next level and gives the average consumer Photoshop and beyond like capabilities with no skill whatsoever.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Right. Because my one son, he is a Photoshop whiz. He put our
Hmm.
whole family photo with us in front of a erupting volcano. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Now I
Yeah.
can do that. I don't need to ask him to do that anymore. I
Well,
can
that's
use
that's right. In our
Firefly
in
to help
our
me do that now.
Well, welcome to another generation where kids are leapfrogging their parents. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, so Firefly is one. That's text to image and generative. So manipulating images. What about another tool?
I'm going to talk about another one here, and there are a class of applications for this use case, and this is video generation, right?
Okay,
So Firefly is great for text generation, editing, the types of fill effects that we talked about. So, what if you want to create a video from, let's say, a script you already have, or maybe just a blog on a web page. Maybe it's your page, it's somebody else's blog post. This tool is not completely free. It's about Netflix premium pricing to get the version that you'd want. It's called Video Gen,
video
and
gen. Okay.
this is something that people could look at and take a look and see how it might be able to take an article that you have or a blog post. And these tools work in sort of the same ways that VideoGen does. They have an existing library of images and video clips that they'll insert based on what they think is going on at that point in your blog post or other content, right?
Oh,
So
so this is interesting because it's not actually generating new images or videos on the fly.
no,
It's aggregating things together to tell a story. I love that.
that's right, and it's keyed on the implied theme of certain portions of your content, right? So
All
that's
right,
where
you
it's
know what we're gonna do, Andy? I'm gonna go get Video Gen. After I write the blog, which will be generated by a generative AI after our conversation, and then I'm going to have it do a video of our thing. So if you're listening, go find it on YouTube. You'll find it on Embracing Digital Transformation. We're going to do this. We're going to see how it
okay.
does. I
Sounds
think this
great.
would be cool.
Sounds great.
All right. So I can see lots of practical things I can do for that. Right. With VideoGen, can I feed it some of my own images to include in that? Does it allow me to do that?
Um,
Do you
that
know?
I'm not completely sure about. I didn't get that far because it was just so easy for it to use pull clips from its own library. So that's definitely something to look at.
We have to look into that.
There,
Yeah.
yeah, because there are other tools that have for a long time been able to do that, sort of create animated slideshows and things with different, Ken Burns
Well,
and other types of
yeah.
transitions.
Google does that. Google Photos and Amazon
Exactly
Photos
right.
does that with my vacation trips. Right, it creates a
Right.
minute and a half clip of still images. Okay,
Same thing with iPhoto, right? I see. Wow, thank you, iPhoto.
yeah, yeah. The 1,500 pictures I took on my trip to Romania are all boiled down to a minute and a half clip, and that's all my kids will want to watch anyway.
That's
They don't want to see
exactly,
all
or or,
1,500 videos.
or your family's at Thanksgiving, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, 90
exactly right.
seconds, perfect.
Okay, so video generation. I love this one. Video gen. There's also video generators as well, correct?
Yes, there are a
They're
number
not
of
very good yet, though.
they're
Right?
not very good yet. They're either you can either have short or good. I mean, it can be good for very short clips, really short. But just think how explosive the technology has to be versus creating a single still
Mhm.
image
Yeah.
versus a video, right? That's because what it's doing is it's stringing together images, right? To create it doesn't have the video already, right? So it just needs exponentially more content to be able to create a video. That will be coming, I think, because
Well, and then there's also deep fake generation as well. This is where, right, like you said, I
yeah,
can have a video where I change a little something,
that's right.
or I can have, a politician give an address to a bunch of kindergartners. or I can change what they say. We've seen that.
We have
Um,
seen a lot. We've seen people who we know who look exactly like this person saying something they never said, and
yeah,
their voice is perfect too, right? Uh, so the technology is here today, and we're not smart enough to immediately recognize when it's fake.
yeah,
If that
and
good,
that's where Intel's deep fake detection technology comes
I
in,
think
right?
so. Yes,
We want
that's
to
right.
use that. All right, very cool. All right, so we've done Adobe Firefly and image generation. We've done so what's next?
Here's another one. So first of all, there's an excellent tool that's been out for a while called Figma for people who want to do you know graphics online, yeah, for many professional types of use cases. There's another one here for creating websites, and it's excellent. It's really taking off. It's called Framer AI. It's basically at framer.com/AI. So this is for generating and publishing your own website, complete website with AI in a very short amount of time. It can go from scratch. You can import something you've already done, let's say in HTML, and it'll build upon that. So it's fantastic. And I think it's going to give, some of the built-in done for you website makers. I won't mention them. There's a number of them on the market. I think it'll give them a run for their money because you don't have to choose a fixed template, which can be great, but then you look like everyone else's website.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
right. Right. So it's a lot more customizable. So I think this is going to fill a gap between these done for you website builders from templates and then having to go out and contract a whole agency to do it in, Joomla or WordPress or something. So I think it's really great. In fact, it's growing big enough that there are now people who are consulting who just use this tool and the client never knows, but they're able to do a project in a third the
In
time.
a short period of time.
That's right.
Well, so that brings up an interesting question. Um, there is, and can generative AI replace like designers? These people understand design elements, color, placement. They understand the laws of one third and all those things. Can generative AI completely replace those, or are we still going to need humans to say that actually still looks pleasant? That still attracts people to my website types of things. Do you know where I'm going with that, Andy?
Yeah. I would say where the technology is now, you're able to replace the least skilled 20% of the market in a lot of different applications, translation, generative AI. So it's already, I think it's that good. And obviously it'll start creeping up, right? But for now, I'd put it in the 20% category.
Okay.
Uh, but beyond that, you're still going to need likely some expertise to get the full finished outcome for sophisticated applications, websites. Obviously, you can write a good blog post already, and maybe already good enough, and you put your own links in afterwards, right? So it's gotten very good at
So,
things that
so
we
this
we
is
thought
really,
were yeah
yeah,
yeah
this has really lowered the bar of entry for people that want to maybe start a business
yeah.
or
I think
have an
so.
online presence for something. This really lowers the bar a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I think it opens up the market for a lot more. You may have heard the term solopreneurs, right? Hey, I want to do this. I want to build this SaaS app. Well, I can already do some, a large part of the code generation to get it started. Then I need help with the finishing touches. Then I need a website. Well, listen, I can do this. I've got it started. Then I need some help. These logos are really basic. Maybe I need a professional who's really experienced in logo design. Give me 8 different options and I'll pick the best one.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we got Figma X Framer, Framer AI. I like this. In fact, I may go touch on that to see if it can improve my embracingdigital.org website. Which, when you look at it, if you people are listening, go look at it. You're going to say, "Oh yeah, an engineer did that website." Guaranteed. So I may spruce it up just a touch, see what I could do. So that could be interesting. All right, what else do you have for me? That's three. You mentioned you got five different ideas.
Yeah, well, I have an alternative generative AI image app here. Uh, well, it's called Clip Drop. So
Clip
that's
drop.
another one
Okay.
to look at. And this does some, the first thing it does is some pretty basic things. And this comes into uh, to play often. I have this great image. Let's say it's a headshot and there's a background, but I want to use just this image. And so you want, in Photoshop, you do something called take a magic lasso tool, right? And remove the
Right. Yeah.
background, convert it into a PNG. So this does that all for you very well, better than an individual would be able to do trying to follow an outline, right? So it does the, background vanishing. It can do some other types of things that disappear in background. So think of it really as being strong in background removal and other types of things like enhancements, maybe the capabilities you'd find on your consumer photo editing app, but a level beyond.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
this
So
is this is a direct competitor with Adobe Firefly,
yeah, I
really
think so. It's
targeted at background removal and
yeah,
enhancement.
a little less polished because the Adobe everything that Adobe comes out with is just they have such a
Pristine.
high. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I would look at the Firefly first.
Okay. All right. Very cool. All right. Last tool of the day.
Here's
What you
another
got?
one. Everybody either loves or hates spreadsheets, but we have to use them, right?
Yes, we
Uh,
do.
so this is a really fantastic one, and I've used other tools that you could say are from the pre Gen AI generation. Everyone knows Excel, even Smartsheet, which is excellent in its own way, particularly for collaborating with spreadsheets. So here's a really great one I've been playing around with, and it's called Rose, and it's a great domain name that must have cost them a fortune. Rose.com,
So ROADS.
ROWS.
Oh, Rose. Rose. Oh, I'm
Rose, that's
sorry.
right, like Rose in a
Yeah, yeah,
spreadsheet.
that would have cost them an arm and a leg to get that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's first of all a very simple way for uh, doing anything with a spreadsheet, which we all have to one time or another. But it also has a couple of different things that I think really make it stand out. One is the number of data sources that are supported. So it stands out, and the use case categories are the ones you'd expect for a spreadsheet. So sales, marketing, any kind of analytics, financial tracking. But all of us have external data sources, and many of these are public data sources as well. LinkedIn, Tweet or X, statistics, Google Docs. So you can just basically connect all of those into rows, and then it'll use some of its AI, AI magic, quote unquote, to help start building a more sophisticated worksheet for you and showing you insights. So definitely one that you would
Oh,
immediately start trying to plug in with data you already have and say, wait a minute, do I need to really create my own uh, formulas in spreadsheet? What formula do I use here anyway? And maybe I need some conditional highlighting because I want to see the top 20% of my customers. So it can kind of do things like that automatically.
what you're describing is data fusion driven by generative AI on the back end. So, like you said, I could have really complex data sources coming in. It's going to say, for example, here's something super complex. I'm trying to coordinate all 22 members of my family because I have 10 kids and they've gotten married and I've got grandkids now. So there's 22 of us and we're all going on vacation together, all flying from different parts of the United States, all arriving in this location at a certain time. I've got to get rental cars and accommodations for everyone. That's my job. Do you know how much of a nightmare that has been to
I
coordinate?
can
So with
imagine.
Rose, I could just feed in, here are the flight numbers. It's going to know, it can go out and get that information and build me a spreadsheet that does this automatically for me. I've spent
I, I
hours putting
I
this
think
together.
so. I think you could even get, let's say, a Twitter feed from the airlines.
Yeah, if there were
With the
delays or anything like that.
yeah, feed that in, and also it looks like it has a plug into Zapier. I don't know if you've used that tool, which is kind of a trigger based workflow.
Yeah, I
Uh,
use Zapier. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So imagine combining that. So I think there's going to be kind of an army of consultants that also, first of all, is easy, but then people who are really good at it are going to be able to create these amazing, automated dashboards, right?
Very, very cool. So this is interesting because what you mentioned it a couple times. People that learn how to use these tools are going to have an advantage.
That's right. And power users in particular are going to be very coveted for some of the top tools. So you're seeing that already around things like Figma and Notion, which you may have seen. People are building custom Notion templates, and just that alone is turning into like a fantastic sideline and consulting business. So I think something like Rose again. Uh, Everybody or every business and almost every person in a business needs some sort of dashboard. And a lot of them are clunky, hard to put together, unreliable. There's no end to the use cases for something like this.
So I'm right in telling my kids because some of my kids are already in the workforce, some are in college, and I got two high schoolers. I told them, you better hop on this bandwagon. You better learn how to use generative AI tools to get your work done because if not, you're going to be left in the dust. And that sounds like that's true.
Yeah, and there's a quote I saw, and I have no idea who to attribute this to, and it essentially said, "AI is not going to take your job. Someone who is an expert with AI will." Right? So,
All
you
right. You guys heard it today from Andy Morris. Since we don't know who originally said it, we're going to attribute it to Andy. Um, AI is not going to take your job, but an expert in using AI will. I love that.
yeah, I think now is the time to be an expert or gain power user capabilities with the latest tools.
Great. Andy, thank you for coming on the show. This has been great because we got to some real practical stuff. A lot of times on my show, we talk esoteric. We're like, well, lift this. And now we got down to some real like Firefly, Video Gen, no, you mentioned Notion, Figma, Framer, IO, Clip Drop, and Rose. These all sound like great tools. Some of them I've never heard of. I'm absolutely going to go get some things. I promise I'll do the Video Gen. I have that on my list. That gives me something to play around with this weekend because I got all the time in the world, obviously, right? So to
Well,
go
sounds great. I'll be looking forward to seeing the result.
Hey, thanks, Andy, again for coming on the show. I look forward to having you back on.
I love it.
This has been great.
Okay, likewise. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation today. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it 5 stars on your favorite podcasting site or YouTube channel. You can find out more information about Embracing Digital Transformation at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, go out and do something wonderful.